All right, in this demo, we will be talking about the stroke tools, which are pretty formidable. So we're going to try and keep this under control because there's a lot of rabbit holes we could fall down. And we're not really here to learn Illustrator like an Illustrator class. I only want you to, learn some of the cool things that we can do that we will apply to our projects as we move forward. So in our last demo, we were playing around with gradients. Okay, so say you want to get rid of your gradient, you select your object, you come back over to the little tool palette right there. You just click the color button and it removes the gradient, and then we're back to a solid shape. So we have three different kinds of strokes. We can outline an element with a stroke. And so by default, the strokes are usually off. And so if we wanted to add a stroke, why don't we first fill it with something other than black? Let's just pick a nice sort of purple color and something a little brighter. There we go. Okay, so and then with a stroke, what we can do is we can pick stroke from here, we can pick it from here, we could pick it from here. So we can pick stroke colors from just about anywhere, right? So we can pick it from here. It's like we can pick it from anywhere. So anyway, we'll just pick a stroke and then we'll just pick a color and something like that. And then when you're finished, you just, unclick that. And then remembering that we can use our scroller wheel to increase or decrease the size of things. Somehow that turned back to black, but whatever. Let's go back and fill it with whatever. There we go. Okay. Something brighter than that. There we go. Okay. So now we got a stroke. Let's turn the fill off, so we're only playing with the stroke itself. So click on the fill color, and then click on the go away button, and we're good to go. Okay. So now we just have a stroke, and we can, of course, play with the width of the stroke by playing around with that little slider deal here, or we can play with the opacity, right? So these are two different kinds of basic functionality. But we can do a lot of other fun things. Okay, so you'll notice that I have my brushes window open. You get that from here, brushes. Okay, brushes allow us to do some fun and exciting things. We have a couple of sort of standard brushes that are loaded by default. And if you just click on one, you'll see that it changes the effect. And then if you want to make it bigger, whoa, really wild and weird, right? Okay, so that's kind of fun. And so then if you want to eliminate that, or it's like, whoa, that's not what I wanted, you just go back and click basic, and it goes back to its standard default situation. And something about running to zero takes your color back to black. So don't necessarily run it to zero, because like I said, it just reverts back to the default color. Anyway, let's go ahead and pick that color again, and let's go ahead and make it bigger. And so we have some options here. If we click on this little libraries menu, if you click on that, you've got some cool options here. So let's take a look at this brush library. And like I said, there's some fun, exciting things that you can do with this little brush library, but there's other neat things too. And so if we click on this little library down here, this little library menu right there, if we click on that, Artistic is a neat place to start from here. So let's just go to the artistic calligraphic, right? And so we get some options. These options are more for drawing than they are for actual, playing around. You can see that it does kind of neat things to it, but really in reality, it's kind of more fun to do something more cool. And so here, for example, you can just play around with different effects on these different lines. And, if the effect isn't exactly what you want, you just go ahead and make the stroke bigger. And it does all kinds of weird things, okay? So notice I just went to zero, so now it defaulted back to black. So let's go back and pick up our bright green color again. And let's pull that all the way up to the top. And so you could play around with these sorts of things, right? So this goes on and on and on and on and on, right? And so you can play around with that. And so the thing is, you can only really do one effect on the line. If you add a different effect, it takes the other effect off. So you're essentially just, playing around. Now what's happening up here in the brushes menu, you'll notice that every brush that I clicked on has now been added to this brushes library, this sort of master library. So if you ever wanted to go back and say, okay, I'd like that effect, I can go back and I can find the one that I was using. So if I use it over and over and over again, it's always up here. I don't have to go find it down in this menu again. If you decide you want to get rid of it, you just click on it and you say remove stroke, and it goes away. So this is how you clean your menu up. Okay, just basically do that, remove stroke, and so on. Okay, so that's one cool option that you can play around with. Now we have other ways of using strokes. We can draw a line, right, using our line tool. And again, we can apply that stroke. And, if I like that one or this one or whatever, I can go back to my library. Okay, and then the other way you can play with strokes is with the paintbrush tool. Paintbrush tool basically draws a line, and you'll notice that if we use the direct selection tool and we click on it, it's got vertices just like any other curved object. And we haven't really talked a whole lot about manipulating lines using the pen tool. And so one of the things you can do is, if you notice, if you click on your direct selection tool, it's got vertices just like any other vector object. And what we can do is, if we want to manipulate this in some way, this is the neat thing about vertices. And we kind of played a little bit with this in Project 2, but if you double click, you can grab that vertice and you can, manipulate that shape, and you have the handles and you can manipulate that, and you can click on another one and you can move that, and you can do this. So it's the same thing that we were sort of playing with back in Project 2, but that, again, you can do the same thing with any of these elements as well. Okay. So then, of course, we can do fun and exciting things using our menu of our pen menu, our drawing menu, and we can, change the weight, and we can change the color, and so we can do all kinds of fun things, and that's pretty much how the stroke tools work. So I hope that is clear as mud. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of scary places that you can go. I'm not even going to show you, but just to kind of let you know, there's an FX down in here, and if you start doing weird things, it jumps you into a whole new place. And we're not even going here because this gets really kind of weird, so I'm going to just cancel that. And so in case if you click on that little effects tool thing right there and you go do something bizarre like this, it jumps you into this menu. Don't want to go there. Okay, I mean, if you want to play around in here, you can, but I'm not going to show you. It's up to you whether you want to drop yourself into that rabbit hole or not. All right, so that's the stroke tools. Okay, cool. Hope this works.